Disgusting, heartbreaking and inhumane. They are the words one woman has used to describe the treatment of her mother, Filia Zinidakis, by St Basil's Home for the Aged in Victoria. Clary Lutis joins us now. And Clary, you've now pulled your mum out of the facility. You're pretty upset.
Yep, I'm upset, I'm disgusted, I'm disappointed with the way the government's handled St Basil's. I'm fearful for everyone that's left in there. I feel guilty because I got mum out and there are so many people still left in there. I'm really scared. I'm not overreacting. I'm jumping on a bandwagon. It's a real concern.
I mean, we're seeing that from you this morning. We also heard another family, they couldn't find their dad for 5 days at St Basil's, only to learn that he was dead. I mean, it is not good enough. We can see that in your face and your emotion right now. Can you explain to us the kind of neglect your mum experienced?
Yeah. So because I was persistent, I was able to get a doctor to go see mum from the outreach team. Mum's been testing negative, COVID negative all this time. That's why doctors weren't looking at her. He went and saw her and determined that she was deteriorating and classed her as a palliative resident. And under compassionate grounds, I was able to go see her. When I went in there, I saw that mum was being served inappropriate food. By this stage, it was day 3 from when the government was in there. There was a glass of water left to the side of her bed, and you could tell that the glass was full. No one had made any effort to give her any water. Mum is totally dependent on someone feeding her, dressing her, changing her. She's incontinent, and she's on a vitamised diet, which means everything has to be pureed in a liquid form. And as you saw in that photo, there was a tray of a pasty, spring roll and some mash for someone who's on a vitamised diet. That's pure neglect, because if they'd read her chart, it's clearly stated that she's on a vitamised diet and everything has to be pureed.
So is your fear that your mum hadn't been fed or received any of her medications for several days? Correct.
Because when I went in there, the nurse that escorted us into mum's room saw that I got really agitated with the food that was in her room and gave me some yoghurt. And within 3 spoonfuls of feeding mum, she was able to talk to me. By the time she ate 3/4 of the bowl of yogurt, she smiled. She even called me a shithead, in Greek, and called out to Dad, my love, which means she recognised him. And instantaneously, she picked up. Right now, she's in hospital, and in the next 24 hours, we're going to determine whether we keep her on fluids and try, and hopefully she recovers, or we take her off fluids and give her palliative end-of-life med, all because she was neglected for those 3 days. And it was only 3 days, but as someone who is so frail, 3 days counts. 3 days of not being hydrated, not being fed. It's irreversible, the damage that was done in those 3 days. It's disgusting. Well, someone needs to be held accountable.
Well, 3 days can mean the difference between life and death. I mean, we now have nearly 700 cases across 61 facilities in Victoria. Our elderly deserve better. Just very quickly, do you have a message for both the state and the federal government?
Yeah. You're going to take over other facilities. Before you do, assess the facility, find out what the needs of the residents are, and don't just go in there and say, yep, I'm dumping 100 staff in there. How can you put staff in there without qualifying and understanding what the needs of that facility is? And I challenge anyone that has been in the facility at St Basil's to disprove everything that I've said. You'll find that no one will come out and disprove what I've said, because I've seen it with my own eyes, and I had the support of the very few qualified staff in there.
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's a total mess. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Clary. We're glad your mum's okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carl.
Let's bring in CEO of Council on the Ageing, Ian Yates, now, who joins us from Adelaide. Ian, good morning to you. Did you hear what just happened there with the interview with Ali?
I heard most of it, yes.
OK, so for weeks now, we've been talking about how bad the situation is inside these facilities. For weeks on end, we've been hearing stories of families who are saying goodbye to loved ones who have been neglected, who have been badly let down. Why haven't we fixed it?
Carl, let's firstly say that the kind of story we've just heard does happen and will happen is unacceptable, and the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission needs to look at why these things are happening. But secondly, acknowledge that in a context as a society where we have lots of very vulnerable and unwell people that we put in congregate living called nursing homes, and then we allow a massive increase in community transmission of COVID, the challenges facing the industry at the moment are enormous. And I'm hoping that the coordination that is now happening between the Commonwealth and state governments through the new federal government's response centre will help deal with that. But the challenge when you have to replace 20 or 30% of your staff virtually overnight, or indeed up to 100% of your staff, is very dramatic. And not something that anybody would want to face.
See, Ian, I was hoping, and we had the aged care minister on yesterday. I was hoping that a lot of the things that they suggested were going to be done were done. E.g., the staff who were going into these facilities, they were going to stop them from working at multiple facilities. I'm hearing this morning they're still working at multiple facilities. So in order for them to keep a lid on this virus, some of those staff stopping them from going from facility to facility. That should have been done by now. That hasn't been done. Why not?
Well, firstly, that requires the cooperation of the staff. Unfortunately, in Australia, we don't have a register, and we need the cooperation of staff and the unions. This is not something that is automatically manageable, but it should be happening. The federal government has put the money up for those staff to only work from one facility. That's one of the issues. But any staff member, whether they're working in one or more facilities, ought to be not going to work if they're unwell. And facilities need to redouble their efforts to ensure that staff who are coming in are well and that they understand infection control. Every shift, every staff member needs to be reminded of how you go about your infection control, your personal protective equipment, etc.
Ian, thank you for your time today. It's an absolute basket case at the moment. We hope it's fixed soon. Thank you for your time. Ali?
Well, in